What happens when you get home when you're not busy? Do you instantly write music, or do you spend time with your missus, and how do you sort of become a human being?
I mean, I'm a fan of I'm a sort of a habitual person. So I really like going to the same coffee shops every day. And I feel like that's when I can get inspired, is when I'm like, I think boredom and inspiration are like, cousins of each other.
I like that. They were definitely related.
Absolutely.
That's why isolation works so well in the creative space.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like I don't know. That would be like, whenever I have kids, I think I'll try to give them opportunities to get like bored a little bit, and then to make something, even if it's like a Lego building or something, just, I think that's all the times I've gotten really creative in my life, just because I was like, I'm bored.
Hey, congrats on the EP and on the music.
Thanks so much.
Just the way you're doing things is super tasteful and at your own pace, and it's not pressured. Man. And, I know that you on one side, you're living this life that happens once in a generation where, you and Billie are just running around the world, just changing kids' lives every single night and making this amazing music. And all of it is deserved. Everything you're receiving is entirely deserved based on the quality of what you've made and continue to make.
Thanks so much. I think the fun part about this past year of touring with Billie has been seeing a lot of kids attend their first concert ever. That's like, I remember my first concert ever was Green Day when I was, I think, 11. It was great. And it set the bar like way too high.
That's like American Idiot era. That's 3.0.
It was 21st century, but there were still like, in the huge, sort of boom of American Idiot. But those concerts like shape your whole life. I think even if you have no interest in pursuing a career in music, the first couple concerts you go to shape your life. You go with your parents often, so it's really like, that's been a really special experience.
Is it hard to kind of hold the line when, like I said, you're in this split personality to a degree? You're kind of, on this earth conquering experience over here, but over here you're holding on to it like it's precious to you.
The question I get asked frequently from either friends or maybe people that are at a label or in interviews is like, what's your goal as a solo artist? That's a good question, and I think it's important to like be asked questions like that, because it means you have to answer them. And like, I didn't know that I had an answer for it, but I'll say this, like, when I started making music, it was this like completely therapeutic experience where I was like writing about how I felt and basically like making a rhyme, but it was all just like how I felt. And this was like when I was like 12 years old and I was just starting to write songs. As I got older and got interested in producing and then started working with my sister, I would work with Billie, and we'd be, trying to articulate, everything she was going through in her life. And that was so exciting because she's, to me, like a once in a generation, like vocalist, and her emotionality in her music is so compelling.
Yeah,
and I just
transparency and bravery.
Yeah. And I want to just be of service to that sort of, experience. And then opportunities came to like go in and write with other artists and produce for other artists. So then I was going in and like being their therapist and listening to them talk about their problems. And there was some point after about like 7 months of that where I was like, oh my God, I haven't written a song about myself in like a year. And that was right around the same time I wrote the song Break My Heart Again. And that felt great. And it was like the only way that I felt like I could articulate that was through that song. It wasn't going to therapy, which I've gone to and would recommend to anybody. It was that song. To circle back to the like, what's your goal? Like, the goal as a solo artist is to write songs about myself. And I think that was like why it was only singles for a long time, was like, I'm making one song at a time that I think that I would love for you to pay attention to for 4.5 minutes. I don't know that I'm ready to have like a 15-song record that I really can consciously be like, yes, give me this hour of your time. But this EP, Blood Harmony, that just came out, to me was like the first body work that I was like, these are all, I want everybody's attention for these songs.
To me, there's no real surprises there. Every time you have put a song out, it's been this kind of like, as you say, up to that moment as perfectly constructed as you can to capture that moment in your life. And you are an honest writer.
To me, the song that I've gotten the most outreach from, of people saying that they relate to it and that it speaks for them, is this the song I Lost a Friend. When I wrote it, there were a couple lines in the song that I thought like, well, this, if I were a songwriting teacher, I think I would say that this was
good,
pretty specific and pretty hard to relate to, because there's a line in the chorus of like, made a little too much money to be 20 and sad, and that like puts my own like age timestamp at the time, which kind of made me like worry. I was like, am I going to relate to this when I'm 25, when I'm 30? So many people relate to it because I think you imbue all of those lines with whatever you want it to be. I think that line for me was a very literal kind of like feeling kind of like I didn't have the right to complain about anything because we were in this place where, our sort of careers.
On the outside, it looks like it's all roses.
Yeah, and there's people that have like real problems. Sure. And I was just like not talking to my best friend for a minute.
So can I ask you a question at this junction about like what it's like to be an empath for you? What kind of toll does that take on you as a person, that trait?
Well, that's funny. I mean, I think it's like every therapist has a therapist, right? That's the whole deal. If you're a therapist, you also go to therapy. And they talk about your They're like, I've got this one guy.
Oh, this guy's Zane, man. Let me tell you, he's
massive
bonkers.
tunes. And they
horrible behavior, but massive tunes.
I think, yeah, I mean, it can be heavy. It's a mutual empathy, and the way we're able to write that song is from our kind of like experiences that aren't shared but that mirror each other, where I'm in a writing session and somebody goes, I'm going through this breakup right now that's making me feel this and this and this, and I go like, I've been through breakups that make me also feel this and this and this, and then you talk about it, and you know, maybe change a specific name of like the city that you were in or whatever to make sure that it's reflecting their narrative.
Outside of your sister, who was the person that you had the most instant connection with so far that you've written with?
That's a really, really good question. I haven't even written with them, but I just spent the weekend hanging out with James Blake at ACL.
Amazing people.
And I haven't written anything with him, and maybe it'll be beautiful and we'll keep it that way. But yeah, I definitely like have been thinking all the same stuff my whole life that James has been thinking his whole life. I think that's a crazy thing to realize.
Do you go and allow yourself the space on your own to sometimes just be vicarious?
I get really infuriated by people's behavior all the time. I think the way that people do things is like vastly annoying.
Right, just generally.
Just all the time.
Are you a grumpy person?
Yes. Watching people, like if there's a hell and it's personalized, my hell is the TSA line behind someone who
isn't ready to take their stuff out of the luggage and put it through security.
Who just has clearly not realized they have to do it until just that second.
Yeah. What do you do with your downtime on tour? Because you do have a lot of it.
The past several months, all of my downtime has been recording. I recorded most of Blood Harmony when we were in Europe this past August.
And can you hear it in the music? Do you hear like Prague and like Paris? And
well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is like, you know, I think just a great microphone and you know, like the same vocal chain is going to make a place sound pretty similar. But I like the kind of, to me, like the sort of diary entries of like, wow, I was in Dublin recording all those vocals for Lost My Mind.
Were you ever in choir at school?
Yeah, for years. Billie and I both spent years in choir. I mean, I think it's probably like the thing that I find the most redeeming and valuable about church is just that people sing in church.
And
you know?
What's your relationship with church? Did you go a lot when you were a kid? Or
I didn't really go at all. We were raised sort of a-religious or agnostic, and we did sing in church services sometimes because the choral organization would do church services, and we do, you know, a different sort of religious-based church services, and that was a wonderful experience.
I'm really happy for you, man. I love the way it's moving.
Thank you.
Are you still writing for yourself? Are you kind of
yeah? I think there's the batch of music that's out. There's 2 songs on the EP that are re-releases. Let's Fall in Love for the Night came out about a year ago. I Lost a Friend came out in May. I'm writing the album now, and I think the album's all new. I think it'll mirror When We All Fall Asleep in that sense, that the EP had Ocean Eyes and Bellyache, and then the album was just only album songs, no re-releases.
Everything must come to an end, even if it's a comma. And so I wonder just kind of like what your thoughts were towards booking another world tour after the 2019 experience.
We're deep into the creative process on new material for sure. You know, I think the main point of this was that this is an album that we really love to play live, and it's continued to grow, and that's been a great blessing. And we're just excited to play, you know, a kind of a year on this album that really services this record.